Got to know your C's now. Price?
No. They definitely had that. That made the four. That made the four. They definitely had that.
Right.
They definitely had that. But they also had the compassion for their fellow man. When I can't remember the lineman that ran out with Jason Peters' jersey, Wisniewski ran out with Jason Peters' jersey. They had they had it there for their fellow man, that man that was down. So
and another thing that brought out the unity with this team, and I mentioned this yesterday also. Usually when you have a young team like this, they get the Super Bowl week, and Donnie and them did it. They party.
Yes.
It's the first time I'm in the Super Bowl. I don't know if or when I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna live this moment up.
Right.
The difference with this team, and it started with the secondary, Jalen Mills, and I think it was Corey Graham, or one of the other D-backs. When they got to Minnesota, these guys went to the mall and bought an Xbox.
Stayed in.
And they said, we going to entertain ourselves. We going to stay in. We going to stay together because we got a job to do. And Lane Johnson said it best. We not going on a field trip.
Right.
We're going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and they said they came there for something to do, and that's what they're going to accomplish the mission they came there to do, and they're going back home, and they did it.
Absolutely. Now, everybody was talking about Nick Foles. Can he do it? I'm a little leery about Nick Foles. I'm not sure. I mean, he's done it before. You know, how fast, how quick do people forget? He was here under Chip Kelly, unfortunately, but nonetheless, he got the Eagles to the playoffs. Ended up going to the Pro Bowl and was the MVP of the Pro Bowl. Had that stellar game against the Raiders. 6, 7 touchdowns that game, something like that. But when I heard that Nick Foles was starting, I tried to calm people down. I said, listen, it's not about Nick Foles. Now it's about the coaches.
Right.
Because the coaches now have to make him comfortable. And I use this analogy, and one person, right, and one person, because he was a Broncos fan, was the only person that looked at me crazy when I said this. I said, if you look back at Peyton's last Super Bowl with Denver against Carolina, the offense didn't win that Super Bowl. Their defense took over that game from the first snap of the ball.
Yes.
Peyton only had to control and manage that game. And don't get me wrong, by all means, I'm not comparing Nick Foles to Peyton Manning because it's no comparison there.
No.
But the issue is Nick Foles only has to manage the game.
They tailored the game to his strengths. That's what Doug did. And I mentioned this to one of my friends, speaking of Doug. An unpredictable coach is hard to game plan for.
Absolutely.
And Doug, like from the second half of the season was
you're right.
Was unpredictable.
There's a lot of plays coming out that you didn't expect.
You know, I was very surprised at Doug throughout the season. And at one point, I was just sitting home. I think I was prepping for a show. And I just said to myself, let me just Google this dude, just out of curiosity to see. And what I found was his football lineage was longer than I expected. Some of the names that he has been incorporated with as far as football are arguably some of the greatest minds that they say in football. So I understand better now. And I was a little questioning. Jury was still out up until, I would say, week 9 of this season. Then I was sold. But he really, really impressed me the 3 games in the playoffs. All 3. He impressed me. I mean, I knew what Jim Schwartz was because I was very familiar with Jim Schwartz. But Doug Peterson was always just a quarterback coach or a position coach. He was never
a high school
coach.
coach.
Or a high school coach, right. And we know Jim Schwartz was a defensive coordinator, stands out. Head coach, stands out. But like I said, when I Googled Doug Peterson and I found out his lineage and the people that he was connected to, I was a little surprised, but then it really registered as to how he's doing what he's doing, only in his second year being a head coach.
And you know how I look at it, we were a complete team, from coach coaching on down.
Mm-hmm.
Our coaches got along, they laughed and joked. The team, they got together, they danced, laughed and joked. And then their positions, that you had a good defensive line, we had a good offensive line, we had a good receiving core, we had good running back. You know, and if you look at some teams, they don't have teams.
Right.
They have
Right.
people.
Right,
People.
absolutely.
Like the Patriots have Brady and Gronkowski.
Right. I mean, there's nobody
Brady
on
and
our
Amendola.
right. Nobody
Yeah.
on our team that I would trade out. It's like the end of the season is even for the second strings. It's like, wow, you had a great second string. You mentioned earlier for players to go down, Carson Wentz, boom, Jason Peters, and for those spots that void to be filled with the players we have were great players. They were ready to step up
Absolutely.
and play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think did it for this team. We matched the Patriots man for man. Every time they went man, I felt great.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I felt great. I mean, I don't think Darby should have been on Gronk, but sometimes you got to put the smaller rabbit against the big bear
Right.
to show that, yo, this rabbit ain't no punk. He gonna take these bruises and still fight for it.
And that's something I was still thinking about. What they do with Malcolm Jenkins in the second half? Like the first half, he was out there in the mix, and then I couldn't find him.
I think I was going to say something about that too right before you said it, but I think in the first half, I think what they did was I think they tricked Belichick up, because now that I'm thinking and hearing everything prior to the game, the thought process was somebody else to be on Gronk.
Well,
They were
everybody
saying-
expected Jenkins.
Right, and they were saying
And that's what
expected
they
it to
did, right.
be Jenkins on Gronk, but when they came out, they put him on White.
Right.
And the
Deservingly
thing is,
so.
Yeah.
White was the one who had the great Super Bowl the last time that
Right.
they won. Last year,
Okay.
he had the great Super Bowl last year.
And they expect the second half
So-
for them to switch it up, and they did.
Right, and it was like a shocker. It was like, wait a minute, he's not on Gronk, so we're gonna try to take advantage of it.
Right.
But they couldn't get it to him.
Exactly.
You
More
know?
unpredictability.
It reminded me of, like you mentioned, the Madden earlier. It reminded me of Madden with that play before they got real intricate with it, where you could audible and disguise your defense.
Okay.
That's where I look. That's the way I looked at it. Like they disguised their defense extremely well, and again, I love the fact that going into halftime, when Doug was asked, "So what do you do now? You know this is Tom Brady and whatever." He said, "Okay, we do what we supposed to do. We gonna
Right.
come out and play 30 minutes of football."
Yes.
You know, it's not hard. It's simple. But again, like you said, D, a lot of teams get there and they get that lead. And, all right,
Yep, take the gas off.
But you got to KYP. Know your personnel. You got to know who you playing against. You got to know who you playing with. And
And Brady didn't
always
like being
said-
touched. He didn't
Right.
like that shot in the
Right.
ribs. He didn't
Oh,
like
no.
He was
It's
cursing his
funny.
offensive line out.
No,
It's
no.
funny you say that because Rodney Harrison, now an NBC commentator, who played with Tom Brady, put it out there at one point and said, "I know the guy.
Yeah.
I know what he can do. But once you start hitting him,
Once you touch it.
he becomes an average quarterback."
Mhm.
And that's what he was. He became an average quarterback. And I lauded the defense, and I'm not taking that back. I said that the defense, the front eight that the Eagles had, was far